Mind games, mind games, mind games. Moses Itauma versus Filip Hrgovic. The battle has already begun. In fact, it began a few weeks ago. I posted a couple of videos on it because I was that impressed with the strategy being deployed by Filip Hrgovic in getting into Moses Itauma's head. Back then, I thought he'd done it, and the recent interview as part of the build-up to what has now become a world championship fight, which in my mind changes everything. But one thing remains the same, and that is it's 1-0 to Filip Hrgovic in terms of the mind games. He's been brilliant. He's just been so good to watch. And it's been so interesting to see the reaction by Moses Itauma, who is quite a mature guy for his age. I mean, he does hold himself really well, but you can see that it's really niggling him that he's not getting props for the work that he's done so far in his career. The big thing out of that interview, there's a couple of big things out of that interview that's really stood out for me, and one of the key ones was the fact that Filip Hrgovic made the point that you've had everything given to you on a plate. This has been a recurring theme by Filip Hrgovic. And I think he has had everything given to him on a plate. Filip Hrgovic, a Croatian, is not surrounded by the boxing machine that we have here in the UK. Now look, Moses Itauma, you've got to give him props for what he's achieved. You know, he stood out very early on and people realized that this guy was special. But in Croatia, that machine doesn't exist. And you then look at somebody like Filip Hrgovic, who in this face-off interview, laid that out to Moses and said, look, you're not as special. This is hype that we're seeing with you. I'm the real deal, and I'm not going to give you props because I've not seen you in against anybody that's given you a real test. Moses Itauma's rebuttal was that, one of the fighters he took out in round one took Filip Hrgovic 11 rounds to dispatch. But again, what Filip Hrgovic was coming back saying was that these guys were essentially over the hill. They weren't prepared for the fight. You saw a different version of that particular fighter. So that was fascinating how he used the fact that, he's from Croatia, very small country, hasn't had the leg up essentially that Moses Itauma has had. The other thing that I really liked was the back and forth on the props. You've got to give me props. This is how I know Moses Itauma has got a real bee in his bonnet. Filip Hrgovic has got under his skin because he really doesn't like that, and it's niggled him. And when the kind of final summary came at the end of the interview, what is the result going to be, Filip Hrgovic? And it was win. And then when the second question was asked to Moses Itauma, it was, I'm going to beat this guy. And those words really let the cat out of the bag. I mean, I'm no psychologist. I'd love a psychologist to kind of give us a proper read on this. I'd watch that. That would be fascinating. But I do know enough about human nature to know that Filip Hrgovic has really got under his skin in a big way. Now look, is that going to translate into an advantage? Maybe. I mean, look, this is all speculation, isn't it? Who knows? It really is going to depend how disciplined Moses Itauma is. It also this could all be out the window, couldn't it, of course, because we've seen how devastating Moses Itauma can be. I've watched every single one of his fights, and I have to say, this guy is so skillful. He's so confident. But again, going back to Filip Hrgovic's point, you've not been in with anybody at this level. And now, of course, it's for the IBF World Heavyweight Championship of the World. This is Filip Hrgovic's dream. You look at the paths that they are on, if we go back to using Filip Hrgovic's words, Moses Itauma, the world is at his feet. You could see him recovering from a defeat against Filip Hrgovic. Filip Hrgovic in many respects, this is the last throw of the dice. So he is going to leave it all in the ring. And we've seen how durable he is against Zhang, you know, getting up off the deck to go on and win that fight. This is not one of the guys that we've seen on the highlights reel here with Moses Itauma. This guy, you clock him, there's a good chance he's going to crawl back up and he's going to come at you and he's going to belt you back. So this is a real interesting fight, probably the most interesting fight. There's all this talk about AJ and Tyson Fury. And of course, as a boxing fan, I want to see that. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I still think it's going to be in Wembley, by the way. But if we're looking at a proper boxing match, you know, does it get any better than this? I don't think it does, guys. I really don't think it does. So it's going to be fascinating to see what happens. I am still leaning towards Filip Hrgovic doing a number on Moses Itauma. Who was it? Was it Sanchez? And what was the name of the American guy? I'll put it in the text here. Forgive me, my brain's going. I'm on holiday and I've had a few of these sherbets, yeah, and it's really kind of affecting the grey cells. But that young American guy, full of beans, you know, really talented guy, really likable guy, proper personality. And he got completely taken out, didn't he, by Sanchez? He got completely taken out by him. You know, and I'm not saying that's going to happen to Moses. Could it happen? Yes, it could. That's the reality here. But of course, that's what makes this so exciting. Anyway, guys, I've waffled on long enough. That's what I think. You let me know what you think in the comments. And as always, thanks for watching. See you on the next one. Bye-bye.